to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith? Then grab your Bible and let's get started. Shalom and welcome to Tuesday night Torah Studies. I'm so happy for those who are able to join me on today. So there will be denominations and non-denomination religious system believers who will say to you or ask you a question like, what makes you think that you have the truth? That can be a challenging question to answer, especially for those who are unable to discern the will of Yehovah, because there are many people who believe that they have the truth. So what makes you think that you have the truth? And just remember this, in some way, many different denominations, non-denominations, have portions of the truth. So I would like to ask them a question. I said, I'm going to ask you a question, then maybe it will answer your question. Such as, do you believe that the Bible is the written word of God? And many will say yes. And then I will ask, do you believe you are to live by the whole book or half of the book? And they will say half, which in most cases, that means the New Testament, Hebrew Shah, that they will say. Then I would tell them that, well, I can find my faith in both halves, both books. My faith encompasses both. If you only find your faith in one half, what do you do with the other half? Now, that's the question that they will have to answer for themselves. Welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards growing in harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I greatly appreciate you joining me today on this live premiere. And also, I appreciate those who'll be watching this on the replay. I kind of have my fan up kind of loud today, so if you hear the little fan noise, it's just me. I do want to take the time out and to greet everyone who is showing up on live premiere. If this is your first time, even doing a replay, if this is your first time, 5th, 50th, or 100 or 400th time visiting me, I want to say thank you and I appreciate you taking your time. But I'm hoping that you're ready to join this family, that does not mind searching the scriptures, a family that does not mind challenging the religious system's teachings that we have been under for hundreds of years. A family that's open to being a lifetime committed student of the Bible and ready to explore the Hebrews of their Christian faith. You can easily join this family by hitting that subscribe button below. Don't forget the bell, because the bell lets you know when I am live, any announcements or any updates that will be coming from this ministry. And this is not the only way, of course, to support this ministry. You can support the ministry by making comments in the comment box. You can send an emoji. Just let me know that you're stopping by. You don't have to be specific, but making comments most definitely is important to me. And sharing the links, sharing when you're live, sharing when you're on a replay, because as always, if you're learning something, someone else can learn something. Give it a thumbs up if you like the biblical content that you listen to every Tuesday, every Saturday during the feast, holidays, and things like that. Give me a thumbs up, because it also lets YouTube know that they need to send the ministry out to more people. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Podcasts for those who have that membership. Shop in a digital online shop. Of course, you know that Reconcile the Kingdom have a digital online shop where you can find individual Bible companions. Also, that you can have in the workbook Bible companions. And we are probably at about 50 items, maybe 49 items right now in the online digital shop. I am trying to encourage everyone to get ready for the book of Exodus, because that is what's coming up next. So we are in Genesis chapter 43 on today. So Exodus will be here before you know it. So let's go ahead and get your Exodus book and be prepared and ready. And for those who join me on Saturday, on the Sabbath day, we are almost done with the book of Judges. So that means we'll be going straight into the book of Ruth. And I'm just showing, in case you're a visitor, what we have in the shop for those two books and what is it about. And I encourage you to take a look at the shop and look around, see what you like, and purchase those items. And I do want to give you a heads up. So there is the annual feast that's coming up, the 7th biblical month, and the Feast of Trumps, that is Feast of Trumpets, which actually is coming here pretty soon, either on Sunset Friday, or Sunset Saturday. And of course, there will be a sale for the entire online digital shop. So look forward to that for coming in soon. So I just want to let you guys know about that. And don't forget to donate in the love jar. The love jar is you partnership with me, you donating so that I can work on the back end of things, also to grow the ministry. There is a lot of work to ministry. A lot of people only think that you just sitting in front of here and just teaching, but it's so much more than that. It takes a lot of time, especially to keep up with everything. So all this that we had discussed, you can find in the description box below. You can take a look at those items after the live premiere, and of course during the replay. I want to remind you that at the end of the teaching today, you are able to ask questions about the teaching that's presented to you today. I encourage making comments, again, sharing throughout the teaching. Those things are important as a community to communicate, which is the number one reason why I went live, so we can have some interaction. And I'm not carrying too much into recorded videos unless I have to, if there's something that came up. So most definitely you are able to ask questions. Now we always begin the teaching with going over an overview of the key points from last week, the week prior. So last week we were on Genesis chapter 42, and I'm going to bring my sheet up. And thankfully, I think I made it so it can be clear for you to take a look at that. We was on Genesis chapter 42. Now, Genesis chapter 42 was more about Joseph meeting his brothers after 20 years of being sold into slavery. So at this time, there's a famine in the earth. It's not only in Egypt, it's in other places too. It's on the earth. So the famine finally hit Canaan, and Israel sent 10 of his sons to Egypt for grain. I do know in the Bible it says corn, and like the King James Version, it says corn, and other Bibles too. But there was no corn then, it was grain. Remember, there's the barley and the wheat grain. Joseph's brothers did not recognize him. He was dressed and looked like an Egyptian. And he used an actual interpreter to speak to his brothers because he didn't want them to recognize him. He didn't want them to know that he understood the language when they were speaking to one another. So his brothers bowed down to him, and he remembered his dream that he had at age 17. Joseph arrested his brothers for 3 days and released 9 of them, and he decided to keep Simeon and let the other brothers go back to bring Benjamin back. Now, the insight, if you pay attention to Genesis chapter 42, Joseph at one point decided that he is going to keep one of the brothers, send one of the brothers out and keep the rest of the brothers until Benjamin comes back. You find that in verse 16 when he said he's going to send one of your numbers to get your brother, and the rest would be confined so that the truth of the words would be tested. Again, 42 and 16. So he was a little confused then because he changed his mind. And when he locked them up for 3 days, he had maybe 3 days to think about it. He decided to keep one of the brothers and send the rest to go back and get Benjamin. So there was 9 that actually had left. Simeon remained in prison. So I had no cross reference, and I only had one word study when the brother said they were true, which means they were honest. And so my word study's there, and there are no questions. I want you to pay attention to the sheets that I shared with you, which is what this inside the digital online shop. It is specifically designed for those who are exploring the Hebrew roots of their Christian faith. And this is why you will see the law of Genesis, Bereshit, they're in the beginning at the bottom of the Genesis sheet. And then on the side, you will see Genesis, Bereshit, and Pentateuch, because those who are exploring the Hebrew roots of their Christian faith, they need to understand it was a Pentateuch according to the Greek, Latin, and then for Hebrews, Bereshit, at this point. And then we would go deeper into those studies once again. So I'm going to leave my sheet up here for a moment. Remember, the sheet is to encourage you to share. Share your key points of Genesis chapter 42. Share your questions of Genesis 42. Share your insight or what you have applied in your life. Anything, your word study or cross reference that you have found in Genesis chapter 42. Remember, when we do the comments, you don't have to only comment about what we are studying today. You can take a look at what we are going through when it comes to the key points that we have discussed and what you have found. Now, questions to be addressed for Genesis chapter 43 that we can address during the teaching. We're going to go straight to Genesis 43. There's a lot impact in there. So I'm going to do my best to just leave it the basic where you can take it farther on your own. Genesis 43, verse 1. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, We shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, We should not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether you had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us straightly of our state, of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye have ye another brother? That's that King James Version language. And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel, his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him, for my hand should not require him. If I bring him not unto thee, set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. So at this point, all manner of brothers in the whole camp of Israel has been eating off this grain and baking goods and bread and all those type of things you will do with grain. And now they run out. Now remember, for this entire time, Simeon is still in prison in Egypt. So they're living and he is still in prison. And then we hear from Judah. Now, he is the one that came up with the idea to sell Joseph into slavery. Remember, he is the one. If you go back to Genesis chapter 36, verse 26, this is what Judah said to his brothers. What profit will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? He is the one now willing to do everything he can to ensure that Israel does not lose another child. So Benjamin became the favorite child. I'm pretty sure Joseph and Benjamin was probably more the favorites because they came from Rachel. Remember, Rachel was his favorite wife because that's the one that he wanted. Now, Judah had to remind Israel that the governor of Egypt, which is Joseph, which they don't know yet, that he warned them not to come back without that younger brother. And Israel's like, well, why do you even say anything that you even had a brother, But Judah most definitely helped them understand that wasn't their intention. But again, he is trying to convince Israel, his father, to send Benjamin with him and that everything's going to be okay. It's going to be safe. Anything happens, let me be the blame forever. Benjamin is left from Joseph and Rachel, who he believes, according to their knowledge, is no longer here. He does not know that Joseph is alive. Now, Judah said, now we could have been there and back twice if you would just let us go. Now, I do find it interesting that Judah's even speaking of this moment because if you can remember, Judah is the one that had left the family and he got married to a Kenite woman. He had 3 children, 2 died, and there is one left, which Tamar was supposed to marry, but it didn't happen. So then of course, he had twins. So actually, at this time, Judah had 3 children, twins by Tamar and one by by his wife. The Bible never give us a reason why Judah separated from his family and how long he was gone. And I guess we probably could do the math if we go through everything. It's close to probably almost 20 years that he had left. But he had left, and the Bible does not tell us when he came back or why he came back. But we do know that he had left for a while. Genesis 43:11. And their father Israel said to them, It must be so now. Do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels and carry down a present to the man. He wants them to send the gift. So let's pay attention to what's been offered as a present. A little balm, a little honey, spices, myrrh, nuts, and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sack, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure, it was an oversight. Take also your brother, arise and go again unto the man, and Elohim Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother in Benjamin. And if I bereave of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in the hand and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. Israel is trying to offer special food. So remember, the famine was not that there was no food. The famine was about grain. So they have fruits, they have nuts and honey and those type of things available to them. But there's no grain to bake, do other things that you would do with grain. So he said, double what you take, plus, what you took, what was taken previously. The money, he's talking about money. And okay, take your brother with you. I want to stress out the money thing because many people in non-denominational religious systems find it difficult or really don't understand and believe that there was money in the Bible, in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. You can go far as Abraham. There was money in the Bible times. And some people find it difficult to believe that, and they find it difficult to believe there was water, although we see that Abraham dug up many wells for water. So again, that should all be enough to get Simeon and Benjamin both, and all of them too, back to Israel. May Elohim have mercy. If something happened, I will grieve. Let me grieve. So this is where he is at this moment. He's willing to accept what happens. Truly, he does not want anything to happen to his children, especially Benjamin. We're going to continue. Verse 16. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and the men were afraid. His brothers was afraid. There was a reason, of course, because they brought into Joseph's house. They said, because the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we brought in, that we may seek an occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen in our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house and said, oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first to buy food. And it came to pass when we came into the inn that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money again, was in the mouth of his sack. Our money is full of weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. So they didn't know who had did it. And he said, peace be to you, fear not. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out to them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon, for they heard they should eat bread there with him, bread there. So here he is, they're getting ready to present the gift from their father. Joseph see that the brothers was coming from a distance with Benjamin. And so, of course, he asked the ruler of the house to get things prepared because he's going to have dinner with them at noon. Now, this is the ruler of Joseph's house. And think about this. Joseph used to be the head of Potiphar's house. Now he has a ruler for his house. Look how the tables have turned for Joseph. When the brothers realized, they were afraid, that they thought this was because of the money that was returned back to their sacks. And, so they tried to speak to the worker of Joseph and said, peace Elohim, he had brought to them, and let them know that your father, the Elohim of your father, have given you treasure. Now, my question is, how did he know about the Elohim of their father? Did Joseph share this? Did he come from maybe an Ishmaelite, or did he come from the Midianites? All of those are Hebrews. Remember, they are children of Abraham. So I'm wondering if this person who was a slave, we know it's not an Egyptian, did he come from any one of those tribes? So they now are brought into Joseph's house. They were provided two things: water, and I'm pretty sure a towel to wash their feet. Here we have the feet washing custom again. And I know many people have put this as a part of their services for the non-denominational religious systems have put feet washing as part of their service, when feet washing was a custom to do for people whose feet were dirty, because they were walking in sand, they didn't have covered shoes. Even if they had covered shoes, they had to have some really high boots to prevent the sand from coming in. But the feet washing was a custom because of the dirty feet. So remember, this is nothing new. This happened back in Abraham days. I want to remind you, in Abraham days, Genesis 18:4. This is Abraham speaking. My Lord, said Abraham, if I found favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought that you may wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. So remember, this is when the Lords were going to visit Sodom and Gomorrah. So feet washing again is a custom. It is not something that should be added to the services, but people have done that. Verse 26. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hands at the house. and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and he said, "Is your father well? The old man whom you spake, is he yet alive?" And they answered, "Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive." And they bowed down their heads and made obedience. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your younger brother whom ye spake unto me?" And he said, "Elohim be gracious unto thee, my son." And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn for his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and sat on bread. And they sat on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto Egyptians. And they set before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. And he took and set messes unto them before him, but Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and married with him. There's a lot in these verses, verse 26 to 34. There's a lot that's going in here. So I'm going to try to just unpack it a little bit. So the brothers brought to him his father's gifts that was suggested by him to the governor, which is Joseph, and they end up bowing down to him twice. Joseph asked most definitely about his father because he cared deeply about him. And of course, he recognized Benjamin. Joseph becomes overwhelmed with these emotions and rushes out and cries because he didn't want to, again them to know who he was. I'm sure he was happy to see Benjamin alive and that no harm has come to him like harm came to Joseph himself. I'm pretty sure he was happy that Benjamin was not treated like he was. Now, the dining setting was interesting. The table was set for Joseph by himself, his brothers by the birthright, and the Egyptians. So there was different table settings. Now, I want you to remember that Israel, the father, had 4 firstborn sons, birthright. So Reuben was the firstborn by Leah. Dan was a firstborn by Bilhah. Gad was a firstborn by Zilpah, and Joseph was actually a firstborn by Rachel. Now, could you imagine the brothers taking a look at this? You got Reuben, which is the firstborn, and then you got Simeon, because he also did the birthright by each child, the group of children. And if you go all the way back to Genesis chapter 30, you start seeing the numbers, who is who, and who was born in order, and who are the firstborns. So I'm sure they taking a look at this like, wow, this is the birthright order. this is really, how would he know this? And I'm pretty sure they also noticed that Benjamin was given a large amount of food, 5 times more. So can you imagine what was going on in their heads at this moment? Now the Egyptians, they will not sit with Hebrews. There is discrimination against the Hebrews from the Egyptians, although who Joseph is. He's in second command. He is running Egypt, but they are still having discrimination against him and, of course, his brethren. Now, in Genesis chapter 43-32, I want to remind you that the Egyptians it says that the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for this is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So this left room, if you think about it, for the discrimination that when the Pharaoh who does not care to know about Joseph begins to happen. This is left room for that. And I know he knew about Joseph. I'm sure he knew how Joseph was a blessing to the land of Egypt, but he didn't care. However, the question is, why do the Egyptians have a problem? Why are they discriminating against the Hebrews? Now, Joseph really answers this question later on in Genesis, but I'm going to jump a little ahead to help you understand what was going on. Genesis chapter 46, 31, 33. We're going to just go ahead and take a look at that. Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's house, I will go up and inform Pharaoh. My brothers and my father's household from the land of Canaan have come to me. Then all the men are shepherds. They raise livestock, and they have brought their flocks and herds, all that they own. And when Pharaoh summons you and asks you, what is your occupation? You will say, your servants have raised livestock ever since our youth, both we and our fathers. Then you'll be allowed to settle in the land of Goshen, since all the shepherds are detestable to Egyptians. So this now give us an understanding of why the people went to Pharaoh when the famine first started. They didn't even, why would I go to Joseph? He's detestable. He, who is he to us? But Pharaoh had to redirect them to Joseph. So Joseph is the very person that they detest, but he is the one who's planning the salvation for the Egyptians. He is the one who's figuring things out so that you can survive. But yet they have a hard time accepting a Hebrew. Now, are there other Hebrews in the land of Egypt? I'm pretty sure there are. So how would you know to be detestable? And I'm pretty sure you have other people and other mixed races in other places, although the Bible doesn't consider us races. I'm pretty sure there was other cultures that was there. Now, I feel like this is helping us understand why Pharaoh again decide that we need to take these Hebrews and make them slaves. Now, hoping that you have an understanding of what's going on by us just going over Genesis chapter 43. And next week we will be in Genesis chapter 44. And Saturday, the Sabbath day, may just be the teaching of the Feast of Trumpets instead of Judges chapter 13. So it just depends on the new moon sighting. So I'm getting very excited about that, and also for the teaching. Now, if we're going to have a teaching on Saturday and teaching on Sunday, I'm okay with that. I would do that live. So don't forget, before you go, to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to take a look at the online digital shop and see if there's things that you might want to purchase, or there's some things that are there that are free for you to download. I'm hoping that you are learning and that you will continue on with me on this journey as usual. As always, man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yehovah. Have a blessed rest of the week, and I will see you this Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. in the name of Yeshua. Thank and I appreciate you once again. Have a good day.